Do you remember the last time you were trying to say something in English and the words were right there, you knew what you wanted to say, but what came out was just wrong? Not because you didn't know the language, but because a small mistake slipped in and someone noticed.
Oh, I know that feeling. The worst part? It's not even strangers. It's people you respect. Your colleague, your professor, your boss. And you could see it in their face, that tiny pause, like they were processing what you just said.
And then you spend the rest of the day replaying it. What did I say? Was it that bad? Should I have corrected myself?
Exactly. And here's the thing, it's not about being stupid. Really smart people make these mistakes. Doctors, engineers, writers, people who have studied English for years. Because some of these errors are just deeply wired into how we think.
So today, we're talking about 10 of those mistakes. Not to make you feel bad, but because once you see them clearly, they actually become quite easy to fix.
And honestly, catching one of these in yourself feels kind of great, like finding a coin you didn't know you had.
Let's be real for a second. Most English learners, even the really advanced ones, carry a set of mistakes they've been making for so long, they don't even know they're making them anymore.
Right. And the tricky thing is, people usually understand you anyway, so the mistake never gets corrected. It just stays. For years.
I had a student once, a very intelligent woman. She worked as a translator, and she had been saying, "I am agree with you," her entire professional life. She thought it was perfect English.
Oh no. And nobody told her?
Not once. People just nodded and moved on, because they understood the meaning, but the grammar was completely off. It should be, "I agree with you," no am.
That's the dangerous part of speaking English at an okay level. You survive. You communicate. But surviving and sounding natural are two very different things.
And that gap between surviving and actually sounding fluent, that's where these 10 mistakes live. Mistake 1. I am agree / I am disagree.
Okay, let's start with the one you just mentioned. I am agree with you. Why do so many people say this?
Because in many languages, the structure works like that. You use a form of to be before an adjective, and agree sounds like an adjective. But in English, it's a verb, so you just say, I agree, I disagree. That's it.
Simple, but so easy to miss. Okay, what's next?
Mistake 2. Make versus do. This one drives people crazy. Make homework or do homework?
Do homework, always. But I still catch myself saying make sometimes when I'm tired and not thinking.
The general idea is do is for tasks and activities, things you perform. Make is for things you create or produce. So you do homework, do exercise, do your best. But you make a mistake, make a plan, make dinner.
There's no perfect formula. You sort of have to learn them in pairs.
Exactly. And the best way to learn them is through reading and listening, not through memorizing a list. Your brain picks it up naturally over time. Mistake 3. Saying since when you mean for.
Oh, this one. I have been living here since 3 years.
Yes, that one. Since is for a specific point in time. Since Monday. Since 2019. Since I was a child. For is for a duration. For 3 years. For a long time. For 6 months.
So you'd say, I have been living here for 3 years. Or, I have been living here since 2021.
Exactly right. It's a small word, but it changes the meaning completely. Mistake 4. Confusing borrow and lend.
Can you borrow me your pen?
Classic example. Borrow means to take something temporarily. Lend means to give something temporarily. So you borrow from someone. You lend to someone.
So the right way would be, can you lend me your pen? Or, can I borrow your pen?
Exactly. Both work. Just never, can you borrow me something? That one really stands out. Mistake 5. Using very with strong adjectives.
This is one of my favorites to talk about. Very unique. Very exhausted.
Right. Some adjectives are already at the maximum level. Exhausted means completely tired, so you can't be very exhausted. You're either exhausted or you're not.
And unique means one of a kind. There's no degree to it. Something can't be more unique than unique.
With strong adjectives, you use words like absolutely, completely, or totally. So, absolutely exhausted. Completely wrong. Totally amazing.
But you wouldn't say totally tired. Tired is a regular adjective. It can be very tired.
You've got it. It takes a little getting used to, but once you start noticing it, you hear it everywhere. Mistake number 6. Overusing actually.
Actually, I think this one is very common. Actually, I see it all the time. Actually, it's kind of funny.
I see what you're doing there.
Actually is a great word. It's used to correct a misunderstanding or to say something surprising. But a lot of learners use it as a filler word, like or so, and it loses its meaning.
Right. If every sentence starts with actually, nothing sounds surprising or corrective anymore. Save it for when you really mean it. Mistake 7. Saying discuss about. We discussed about the problem.
Ooh, this one is tricky because in many languages that extra preposition is needed.
But in English, discuss already includes the idea of about. So it's just, we discussed the problem. No about.
Same with mention. You don't mention about something. You just mention it.
Mistake 8. He don't/she don't.
Okay, this is a grammar one. Third person singular in the present simple.
Yes, it's one of the most persistent errors I hear. People learn I don't, you don't, we don't, and then they say he don't by mistake. It should be he doesn't.
And it's strange because learners know this rule. They can write it correctly in a test. But when speaking fast, the mouth just goes to the easier form.
That's why speaking practice is so important. The rule has to live in your mouth, not just in your head. Mistake 9. Literal translations that don't work.
This is such a big category. Things like, I will call to you later, or she explained me the situation.
Prepositions are the main culprit here. Call to doesn't exist in English. You just call someone. And you explain something to someone, not explain someone something.
These come directly from the learner's first language. And the fix isn't a rule, it's exposure. Reading, listening, noticing what native speakers actually say.
Over time, your ear becomes more reliable than any grammar rule. Mistake 10. Saying, I enjoyed, without an object.
Last one. This one is subtle. People say, I really enjoyed yesterday.
And it sounds almost right. But enjoy needs an object, a thing or activity you enjoyed. So it would be, I really enjoyed yesterday's class, or I enjoyed myself yesterday.
Enjoyed myself is a nice phrase. It sounds natural and confident.
It does. And it's one of those phrases that immediately makes your English sound more fluent. All right, here's your challenge for today. And it's a simple one, but it requires a bit of honesty.
I like those.
Go back through a recent email, message, or piece of writing you did in English. Just look at it with fresh eyes. And ask yourself, am I making any of these 10 mistakes? Not to beat yourself up, just to notice.
And if you find one, write the correct version in the comments. That act of writing it down actually helps your brain remember it. There's research on this.
Even better, share which mistakes surprised you the most. I'm always curious which ones people think they already knew, but then realize they were getting wrong.
Because that's how real learning works. It's not always about new information. Sometimes it's about seeing old habits in a new light.
Okay, let's do a quick recap. We talked about 10 mistakes that even educated, experienced English speakers make.
Starting with I am agree, where you just need I agree. Then the confusion between make and do. The mix-up of since and for. Confusing borrow and lend.
Using very with strong adjectives, when you should say absolutely or completely instead. Overusing actually as a filler. Saying discuss about when the word discuss already carries that meaning.
He don't versus he doesn't. A grammar habit that needs to live in your spoken English, not just your written English. Literal translations that create awkward preposition errors.
And finally, I enjoyed needing an object, like I enjoyed the evening or I enjoyed myself.
10 mistakes, 1 episode. That's a good ratio.
It really is.
Here are 11 intermediate-level words from today's episode. Read through them slowly, notice the example sentences, and try answering the speaking practice questions out loud. 1. Persistent. Meaning, continuing to exist or happen for a long time, often when it's difficult to stop. Example, he had a persistent habit of starting sentences with actually, even after he noticed it. Practice. Is there a persistent habit in your life that you've tried to change but haven't quite managed yet? 2. Subtle. Meaning, not immediately obvious or noticeable, small but meaningful. Example, the difference between lend and borrow is subtle, but it matters in professional settings. Practice. Can you think of a subtle difference between 2 words in your language that's hard to explain to someone else? 3. Culprit. Meaning, the person or thing responsible for a problem or mistake. Example, prepositions are the main culprit when it comes to literal translation errors in English. Practice. What do you think is the biggest culprit behind your own English mistakes? Grammar rules, pronunciation, or vocabulary? 4. Exposure. Meaning, the process of experiencing something or being in contact with it regularly. Example, the best way to fix natural-sounding errors is through regular exposure to real English conversations. Practice. How much daily exposure do you currently have to real, natural English? What could you add to your routine? 5. Duration. Meaning, the length of time that something lasts. Example, use for when you talk about the duration of a period. For example, I've been studying for 2 hours. Practice. What is the longest duration you have ever spent studying or working on something without a break? 6. Misunderstanding. Meaning, a situation where someone understands something incorrectly. Example, the word actually is used to correct a misunderstanding, not just as a casual filler. Practice. Have you ever had a misunderstanding because of a language mistake? What happened? 7. Reliable. Meaning, consistently good in quality or performance, something you can trust. Example, over time, your ear becomes more reliable than any grammar rule when it comes to choosing the right preposition. Practice. What is the most reliable method you have found for remembering new English vocabulary? 8. Correct. Meaning, to make something right, to fix an error, used as a verb here. Example, nobody corrected her mistake for years, so it became a deep habit she wasn't aware of. Practice. Do you feel comfortable when someone corrects your English, or does it make you feel embarrassed? Why? 9. Filler. Meaning, a word or phrase used to fill silence while thinking, often without adding meaning. Example, words like you know, and actually can become fillers if you use them too often. Practice. What filler words do you use most often when you're speaking English and need a moment to think? 10. Fluent. Meaning, able to speak or write a language easily, smoothly, and naturally. Example, sounding fluent isn't just about vocabulary. It also means making fewer grammar and usage mistakes. Practice. In your opinion, what is the single most important quality of a fluent English speaker? Speed, accuracy, or natural phrasing? 11. Acknowledge. Meaning, to accept or recognize that something is true, even when it's uncomfortable. Example, the first step to fixing a language habit is to acknowledge that you have it in the first place. Practice. Is it easy or difficult for you to acknowledge your own mistakes? Do you think that's changed as you've gotten older? Before we wrap up, I want to say something to anyone who's been listening and quietly thinking, I make so many of these.
Please don't. Or do think it, but don't be hard on yourself about it.
Right. These mistakes don't mean your English is bad. They mean your English is growing. There's a big difference.
I've been teaching English for over a decade, and I still catch myself making small errors. Language isn't a test you pass once. It's something you keep refining, slowly, quietly, over time.
The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to be more aware. Because awareness is what turns a mistake into a lesson instead of just a pattern.
So take this episode, go back to your writing, your conversations, your next meeting or email, and just watch. You might be surprised how often one of these 10 mistakes shows up.
And when it does, great. That means you're paying attention. And that's already more than most people do.
That's enough for today. Thank you for spending this time with us.
See you in the next one.